The Night Walker and basic swordsmanship skills were also enhanced. Kim Min-jun looked at the gate and hoped it would be great if there were still a few more inside. Hunter Kim Min-jun, damn it! Can you please not show up anymore? Damn, why did you get here so fast? Who asked you to? As soon as she arrived, a blonde-haired woman rushed straight to him, eagerly asking and checking if he was hurt anywhere. This woman is the squad leader of Squad 4, Platoon 4, Company 4 of the 104th Division, First Lieutenant Ji Yeun. Kim Min-jun reported he was unharmed, but she kept scanning him from top to bottom with her eyes, while her mouth never stopped interrogating him. Kim Min-jun reluctantly said he stayed behind to hold them off so the other soldiers could retreat. Inside, he couldn't stop cursing this party-crashing squad. After checking, Yoon started questioning his reason for being there, and Kim Min-jun calmly dealt with it. Only after a while did she let him go and ordered the cleanup of the monsters before they retreated from the scene together. The assault team and the investigation team are about to arrive to take control. As soon as she left, another group of girls swarmed him with 100,000 why questions. After hearing that the little black ghost held out its hand, Min understood this and immediately fed it. After eating, the little one cheerfully went off to do its mission. But that excited running posture, even thinking with my leg hair, I feel uneasy as hell. If the kid gets caught by someone now, there will surely be chaos. It hadn't been caught, but Min seemed to have been discovered. The person who appeared right behind him was none other than Lee Seung-ho. Min made up an excuse that he was getting some fresh air because he had drunk quite a bit. In reality, a dark mage doesn't know what it's like to be drunk. They're not even affected by poison, let alone a bit of alcohol. Lee Seung-ho congratulated him on his promotion, and specifically reminded him to maintain his form. Then he reminded him not to come in too late, at least, not before the guys in the room had all passed out. Lucky as hell, I need to be more careful next time. A few more times like this, and my weak heart will give out. As for that person, he's a serious soldier, but all in all, not hateful at all. The next day, the division leaders were looking at reports to continue planning to closely monitor Kim Min-jun. Hearing about the 4-second monster-slaying record, the commander received a call full of praise from his superiors and was also overjoyed. Climbing to senior soldier in less than a month, a heaven-defying progress. It might not be as simple as they thought, but the rumors would spread very quickly, and if so, that side would also pay attention to him, namely the Special Hunter Brigade. The battalion commander was thinking that Kim Min-jun could reach that level. Countless monsters had appeared in this place, and Min was a new generation of monster. Meanwhile, Min was surrounded by monsters with only a blunt stick in his hand, just like during the exam. However, he showed no signs of fear and even smiled with delight, an unusual smile. Back to when Min returned to his room after showering. At this time, the whole group was dead drunk. The only two people still sober were Min and Lee Seung-ho. Lee Seung-ho's body was so chiseled that even Min was mesmerized. Lee Seung-ho then asked if he had ever been to the gym. He could use it freely now that he was a sergeant. After that, he remembered the unit's combat simulator was better and recommended Min try it. Hearing this, he couldn't hold back any longer and had to run to see it immediately. Kim Min-jun excitedly opened the door and went in. He chose orcs as the monsters, and as for the quantity, he pressed the button without knowing when to stop. Only when the machine reported that the maximum number was 30 did he stop. I was planning to go big, but this is a bit of a letdown, isn't it? Next was choosing a weapon. After choosing, it was just time to play. The battle began. The terrain of a desert appeared around Min. Orcs both big and small came in droves. Min at this moment was like a tiger released into the jungle. Feeling the impact of the blows was quite okay, so he began to wreak havoc. If any monster managed to escape Min's blunt stick, it was just because it was lucky. Kim Min-jun was very excited by this realistic feeling. It wasn't long before the last monster was smashed. Min was quite regretful because there were only 30. It ended too quickly, and he didn't feel satisfied yet. So he made a comeback by choosing 30 of each type of monster for a total of 120. That's more like it. This is a real monster hunt, and this is what satisfies me. Surrounded by a horde of monsters, he showed no signs of fear. Not only that, but he also had to wait until they were all there to start fighting. As soon as the countdown ended, the monsters immediately charged. They all formed a chaotic formation, as if their lines had broken. Min also began to distort his personality and charge into the battle. It seemed he was in a manic state. No one could be this perverted. Kim Min-jun buried himself in fighting regardless of the species number or size. Wherever the blunt club swung, a monster fell. Wherever he fought, someone died on the spot. And yet with just a few basic moves, he had finished off 120 monsters of various levels. Min panted and laughed. "Ah ha ha, this is crazy." "So you know you're crazy too?" Min exclaimed that this was the second most fun thing only after playing League of Legends. And yet he even managed to activate a new crude weapon technique skill. How talented. Is this a talented person who should be aided by the gods? Although he didn't really expect to get this skill, not eating a pie that falls from the sky would be truly insane. Too wonderful for a beautiful day. I'll probably have to come here and play every day. Just as he left the room, he ran into Private First Class Lee Dongjin again. Looking at the game result report of Kim Min-jun, he trembled. The two of them just fell silent. After a long while, Lee Dongjin finally stammered, "Is this all single-handedly defeated by Sergeant Kim Min-jun?" "Yeah, that's right, 120 of them. Pretty perverted, right?" Not knowing how to explain an idea suddenly popped into his head. Kim Min-jun put on a serious face and called Lee Dongjin over for a moment. Lee Dongjin thought he was talking about the gym, but no, who would do such a thing? Min gave a twisted smile, saying that was training for him then, without allowing any protest. Directly pushed Lee Dongjin into the simulation room, Lee Dongjin frantically begged, but it was too late. After the two of them went in, the third person to see the statistics board was Kim Gwang-shik. He was also shocked stiff. The next day, snow covered the entire 104th Division. Kim Gwang-shik returned with a gloomy, stiff expression. Kim Gwang-shik asked the people in the room where Kim Min-jun was and was informed that everyone had gone to the warehouse to prepare snow-clearing equipment. As for Min, he had said he would stay in the physical training room until work started. After saying that, the friend turned pale, realizing he had unconsciously used honorifics when talking about Kim Min-jun. But unexpectedly, Kim Gwang-shik didn't get angry. He even asked Jin Cheol-ho to relay a message to Kim Min-jun that the platoon leader was looking for him. He quickly used this excuse to slip away before Kim Gwang-shik could change his mind. Inside, everyone was betting on how long it would take for Kim Min-jun to become a sergeant, asking if Kim Gwang-shik wanted to join them. He looked at the report, then heard his comrades arguing about not being able to become a sergeant in 6 months. Gwang-shik also silently wrote something and threw it on the bed. The whole group was shocked when the number he wrote down was just 1 month. The long-haired guy felt this pineapple head was even crazier than him. In the gym, Min was putting all his effort into lifting weights to train his muscles. He had been lifting weights for so many days but didn't see any muscle gain. Although his strength stat increased and his combat effectiveness also increased accordingly, this didn't satisfy him much. Feeling discouraged, he then saw the status window notify him that his combat strength had increased to level 5. Min was so happy his face turned red. At this moment, Cheol-ho had also arrived to tell him the platoon leader was looking for him. In Min's eyes now, there were only skills. He happily put his clothes back on and thanked Cheol-ho. A moment later, Min was at the administration office. The person on duty here greeted him very warmly, and then handed him a file of some sort. "This is from the company commander." It was a very perfunctory-looking certificate of commendation, but all his achievements were clearly recorded. That, "If my achievements are recognized, and I have this many certificates, will I get any special promotion?" It was also the first time the administrative soldier had seen someone so crazy. But seeing Min's excited face, he didn't have the heart to be harsh and say it wasn't easy. Min was definitely not giving up. He then proposed a price 10 certificates for 1 promotion. The administrative soldier just laughed awkwardly. "This is a certificate of commendation, not a discount coupon, you old coot." A few days later, the platoon had a mission to attack a dungeon. As announced earlier, the dungeon they would attack today was the lair of rat monsters. Before the sentence was even finished, the soldiers were already scared green. Kim Min-jun, Jong Han-young, and Lee Dongjin were in the same team. In front of them were also Lieutenant Kim Cheol-min and Master Sergeant Lee Seung-ho. This sewer rat dungeon was the habitat of rat monsters. Although not classified as a high-danger dungeon, on average over 200 rat monsters appeared. The narrow space of the cave limited the use of guns. This dungeon was truly a tough challenge. At this moment, Kim Cheol-min was discussing the terrain of this area with Lee Seung-ho. Besides the platoon's movement direction, this space only had 1 entrance. The tactic proposed was to lure the rats to this spot. Due to the stench in the dungeon, the soldiers had to use special gas masks designed for the hunter corps. The circumstances made it difficult for the hunters to display 100% of their abilities. The special bait for rat monsters was ripe bananas. The soldiers' faces turned pale. If those rats only eat this, the smell wouldn't be so bad. While the lieutenant was directing the soldiers to place the bait, he suddenly saw human bones scattered on the ground. Before he could even be terrified, someone announced that the rats were coming. Most of them were approaching through the front entrance. The privates took their positions to guard the rear with the deputy squad leader. Everyone was called to their positions. Whoever catches more gets treated to pobo. After agreeing to participate, the rats also charged. The soldiers were ordered to hold their positions. Kim Min-jun looked at the rat as if seeing a certificate of commendation hanging on it, extremely eager. Everyone competed to slash the rats, as if playing Fruit Ninja with no difficulty at all. Everyone is pretty good, huh? Still with his blunt mace. Min swung at once and 3 rats went to their graves together. He also noticed the 2 people behind him were formidable opponents. The 2 of them were taking down the rats that broke through the ranks, none other than Sergeant Kim Min-ji and Lieutenant Kim Cheol-min. A whole large area defended by just the 2 of them. Indeed, their ranks weren't easily achieved. Lee Dongjin was also more decisive in slashing rats now. Yesterday's training seemed to have paid off. When one side called for support, Min immediately volunteered, hearing that Kim Guangshik looked towards him, and then swung his sword, cutting a rat in half. Rat monsters appeared in the rear. Some soldiers were sent there to defend, not to focus on attacking. The red-haired guy used dual swords to fight the rats, very happy that their numbers were decreasing. At this moment, Min smelled that familiar scent again. Because he had a gas mask, it was even easier to recognize. He started looking around and saw a crack appearing right under a soldier's feet. "They're coming from underground," he quickly shouted. Sure enough, as soon as he finished with a boom, a column of energy shot up from the ground. The soldiers hastily jumped away to dodge. What appeared was a giant irregular. This pile of bones was its handiwork, no doubt about it. When it turned its mouth towards Guangshik, he was so scared he couldn't move. He trembled, knowing he was in danger, but unable to react. Someone from behind shouted, reminding him to snap out of it and get away from there. Unfortunately, the rat had already swung its long claws. Just as he thought he was done for with a swish, the rat was struck back by someone who charged in with a sword. Lee Dongjin grabbed his shoulder, telling him he should have moved. The enraged monster continued to attack. Just as the 2 thought they were about to be crushed under its giant claws, Kim Min-jun arrived with a shield. Crazy eyes and unusual strength. This time it's also magical energy. He then landed right on its head. After that, he gave Lee Dongjin a thumbs up. But the real battle was next. Kim Min-jun was ordered to fall back to let the sergeants deal with it at the position, but he didn't feel like listening. The rat used its dark energy to make rocks fall from the cave's ceiling, preventing the warriors from getting close. But this was just too convenient. Just in time, I was worried someone would see this. Saying that, Min kicked it. The rat recoiled in pain and used a sound wave to attack. Min quickly used his shield to block it. Next, he charged forward and punched it repeatedly in the face. Just go for the face. After the rat was completely unconscious, he absorbed its dark energy. Magical energy stat increased by 1. It's worth something, I guess. After exiting the dungeon, the privates were cheerfully joking around. A sergeant called his superior to report the situation, and the squad member was the one who subdued this mutant monster. At this moment, Min was sniffing himself and also turned pale at this horrible stench. At this moment, the long-haired guy came over and patted Min's stomach, praising him. From mosquitoes to monsters, Min didn't spare any of them, and thanks to that, they were still here. Kim Min-jun apologized for charging in on his own, but the long-haired guy said it was a breakthrough situation. If not dealt with quickly, the first casualties would have been Guangshik and Dongjin. This time, the commander interrupted their conversation right after finishing his phone call. He asked if Kim Min-jun was really not injured. Receiving his confirmation, he sighed, told him to come see him when he got back to the unit, and then left dejectedly. Over here, the scarred sergeant was also reporting on the injured team members. After that, he went over and patted his comrade on the shoulder. Because of the breakthrough situation, this dungeon raid will end here. After checking their gear, they will prepare to return. Kim Min-jun went to the administration office again. There was nothing to do but report the process of how he defeated the monsters. Min started to wonder what he should write here. I can't just say I swatted that little thing with a shield like a fly. Who would believe that? The sergeant placed a bottle of medicine in front of him, saying his vision was obstructed at the time. But he could vaguely see that Min seemed to have defeated the monster with his fists. Kim Min-jun gave a forced smile, making an excuse that the situation at that time made him act without thinking. He asked again, "So what are your stats really?" Hearing Min read out a series of numbers all starting with 6, he had a mental breakdown. Even a lieutenant like him only had numbers starting with 4. He leaned back in his chair in despair. Someone like you could get into the hunter officer school. I feel it's such a waste. Whatever, I just graduated high school. It's hard to get into that school anyway. The lieutenant told him again if his goal was a leadership position, he could consider going to university. But hearing him list a bunch of different types of textbooks, Min started to get scared. Indeed, a sentiment not unique to anyone. Min smiled. I don't like studying. Getting promoted through achievements is enough. Although that was the case, if he changed his mind, he would still be willing to help. Then he offered to finish the report for him. Before he left, the lieutenant formally said a word of thanks. In that situation, he had been scared, and it could have led to the worst-case scenario, if not for Kim Min-jun. So this time, the whole team was carried by Min. For Min, it was just something he had to do to get promoted quickly. There was one problem. Corporal Kim Gwang-shik came with his head all bandaged up to ask for special training with Lee Dong-jin. When asked for the reason, he decisively pointed at Lee Dong-jin, because he has improved his strength a lot, and I want that too. Kim Min-jun, of course, didn't agree easily. He gave a serious look as a hint. Luckily, this pineapple head was quick on the uptake, immediately bowing his head to thank Lee Dong-jin and begging very sincerely. Although Lee Dong-jin helped him beg Kim Min-jun, Min still wasn't satisfied. He had one condition. From now on, for 24 hours, if you walk around imitating a pigeon, I'll consider it once. Kim Gwang-shik's face turned red with anger, but his mouth twisted to make cooing sounds, which also stunned and stammered Lee Dong-jin while Min laughed like a witch. There's another one. Meanwhile, in Isgard, a man pushed a cart covered with a very mysterious cloth. When asked why, the saintess gave a demonic smile, saying this was a gift for Kim Min-jun for daring to leave on his own. But no matter what she did, it still wasn't enough for her. This bitch isn't a saintess, she's a witch. She kidnapped him, but acts as if she gave birth to him. Meanwhile, the whole group of people was being herded to dig dirt. The red-haired guy cried out miserably. After digging dirt, it was time to carry stones. They were the army's slaves. Kim Gwang-shik reminded them that this term was only for them to use with each other. As for this stone, it was called an iron stone because they didn't know if it was iron or stone. That's why it was used to build fortifications. While everyone struggled to carry one stone each, Kim Min-jun carried 2 on his shoulders, making Kim Gwang-shik suddenly curious if they were weak or if the stones were light. But that wasn't the end of it, because the next trip he carried 4 stones at once. After moving the stones, everyone got a 10-minute break. The scarred sergeant then went to ask the platoon leader about the empty dungeon that appeared in the 104th Division. Hearing the 3 words empty dungeon, all the soldiers' faces turned as green as banana leaves. They really didn't want to go into a dungeon anymore. The red-haired and brown-haired guys were so miserable they were hugging Sergeant Minji's legs and crying. Meanwhile, Kim Min-jun listened with a confused attitude. An empty dungeon is a place where the internal size of the dungeon is larger than standard. Although the number and types of monsters inside the dungeon exceed the standard in the case of a dungeon emerging, there are no boss monsters or high-danger monsters. This is a favorable environment for hunters to gain combat experience, so before sending soldiers into real combat, the division-level training will be conducted there. Kim Gwang-shik said these things to Min, but Min asked who he had been talking to all this time. Knowing full well that Min was just being dramatic, he didn't bother to argue. What he had just said was not the training he needed. Seeing those guys cry was also annoying. The platoon leader reminded them, this is division-level training, an opportunity to accumulate a lot of points. Hearing this, Min's will to fight flared up again. Feeling excited, he saw the little black ghost again. His face darkened instantly. Why is it there? He quickly used his foot to cover it. On the other side, the red-haired and brown-haired guys were still crying and whining to Sergeant Minji. After touching the little ghost, he saw its memory fragment, related to a request for aid, because an irregular monster had appeared in Yanggu. At a civilian residence, 2 of the investigators suddenly went mad, and yet the leadership only assigned that dungeon to the regular army to control the area, while the hunters were ordered to retreat, prioritizing the dungeon that appeared in the residential area of Hongqian. Min started to smile like a witch again, thinking about using his vacation pass once. Before the sun had reached its peak, Kim Min-jun was already awake. Looking at the dark circles under his eyes, he probably failed at the wake-up early to succeed trend. He glanced at the family photo on the nearby TV stand, a photo where he wasn't present in the family Min-jun, then remembered his story about requesting leave. That photo was of the platoon leader's family of 4. When Minjun came to request leave, he smiled so widely his eyes disappeared. I don't know why you transported several times more ironstone than others at the base construction. So you wanted to finish quickly to use your leave day, huh? You're really great. Very good. If I'm praised, I'll say thank you. But the platoon leader's intention wasn't really a compliment, however. He still caringly asked where Minjun was going on his leave. The young man shyly said he was at the internet cafe last time, and this time he planned to go to the restricted area. The platoon leader had also anticipated this, so he wasn't surprised. He straightforwardly gave the young man the key to his parents' apartment. Now those two had moved to another place for work, so it was empty. The platoon leader still stayed there every time he was on leave, so he guaranteed the apartment was clean. Minjun said he was fine, but the platoon leader didn't think so. He pulled out the pre-written address and gave it to him. If you don't stay, then forget about the leave. The apartment was in Chuncheon City, Gangwon Province, a decent direction on his leave route. Before he left, the platoon leader also told him that if he didn't use it, he should just keep it and enjoy his leave. After Minjun left, he sat on the chair and sighed again. Seeing his resume on the table, the platoon leader suddenly froze and then decisively turned his head away, out of sight, out of mind. Back to Kim Minjun. The young man suddenly gave a satisfied smile, looking at someone else's family photo. Then he put on his hood and left. On the way, he remembered the blonde girl's words about not approaching within a kilometer and just controlling the roads to plan the next move. In front of him, a group of guards was already in formation. If I can't go straight, I'll just jump over their heads. Climbing the roof in a few steps, Minjun got close to the dungeon gate. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of kid it is this time. I need to find a way to know which monster escaped, but thinking of the only snitch, that lively little black ghost Tisk, forget it. If it's a dangerous one, I can just jump out Tisk. And just like that, Kim Minjun entered the dungeon. Inside this place was a gloomy forest as if covered by winter. Many ancient trees without a single leaf, only bare branches like ghosts. And it was so damp it made one exclaim. After walking a bit, Minjun accidentally saw a broken-bladed sword. A battle had probably taken place here. Hey, there's some demon thing. That thing over there is too exposed, so just jump out. I'm too used to sniffing out monsters with all my senses, so you guys can stop hiding. In the view of a squatting person, the first thing seen was a torn loincloth between the legs, dark purple eyes filled with demonic energy, long fangs protruding from the jaw, preventing the mouth from closing properly. The one coming was a goblin, disappointing as hell. Why isn't it a kobold? But why is this little demon so big? To face this guy, the investigation team must have struggled a lot to survive and return here. This one was fat but could jump high. I wonder if it practiced the 9-yin white bone claw because its swipe was quite something. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to threaten Minjun. He reacted as fast as lightning, dodging neatly, then threw a shocking punch in an instant. He punched so hard the blue energy was about to light up the sky. But surprise, he couldn't even break this demon's tooth. It even took the opportunity to open its mouth for a love bite. But Minjun spread his legs and kicked it right away, jamming its lower jaw into its upper jaw. If you're going to be a punk, don't ask why you're eating porridge, you hear? If you're going to be a punk, don't ask why you're eating porridge, you hear? The kick just now made the goblin spew out a lot of things, but it surprisingly hadn't diminished its fierce fighting spirit. The green demon charged forward to pounce again, but in the end, facing Minjun, it would just keep missing. By the way, watch your step, sweetie. I added a bit of my rot skill to soften the ground there. And you're stuck in the mud, huh? Then my condolences to you because I'm not waiting for you anymore. I'm coming to punch you. A rain of fists landed straight on its face, but this thing was still pretty tough. The only good thing was that it didn't bite anymore. The next punch was aimed at a weak spot on the goblin's body, but it was blocked by its bent arm. Minjun was stunned for half a second before being scratched by the demon's other hand. Then it lowered its arm again, revealing the opening on its body. But by this time, Minjun had already been sent flying, landing not far away. Looking at his torn shirt, then seeing the broken sword nearby, Minjun picked it up. The guys I've met since I came back are all ant level. You, however, are probably on the level of a rhino beetle. Once he activates his sassy mouth mode, it's hard for anyone to keep up. The goblin opened its mouth wide and hissed a long sound, then swung another 9-yin white bone claw. This time, it also aimed straight for Minjun's handsome troublemaking face. Even if you're like that, a bug is still just a bug. Damn, I'm so pissed off. What are you gonna do now, huh, you punk? Minjun's killing intent rose as he roared in anger. My new shirt. With that, he plunged his sword straight into the opening on the monster's body. It let out a long, uncontrolled shriek and collapsed. Minjun wasn't done yet. He spread his legs again and delivered a split kick more perfect than a textbook, crushing the head of the insolent creature that had ruined his new shirt. Of course, he didn't forget the part about collecting magical energy. It looks pretty good. My magical energy stat increased 3 times in a row, thanks to this amount of magical energy. The dark arrow skill was unlocked, the night movement skill was enhanced, and the basic swordsmanship skill was also formed. Not bad, huh? Look at this stats board full of beautiful numbers. Dark arrow skill, rank E, consumes magical energy to fire an invisible arrow at the target. Basic swordsmanship rank E, significantly increases proficiency with weapons like swords and blades. Kim Minjun laughed uncontrollably at the long-range attack skill. But why is basic swordsmanship here too? Could it be because of that critical punch I threw earlier? Anyway, it's a pie from the sky. It would be a waste not to eat it. Thinking back, this goblin was already injured before meeting Minjun. I wonder what that flashing thing was earlier. I'll just cut it open and see. Looking at the thing in his hand, Minjun was also stunned with surprise. A sharp, shapeless piece of metal. He couldn't tell if it was an arrowhead or a broken blade fragment. He didn't know if a hunter from the investigation team had stabbed it or not. But looking at it again and again, it seemed familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before but couldn't remember. At this moment, 3 more goblins had arrived and stood right behind Minjun, just when I wanted to try out a new skill. Wait a minute, let me put this trophy away, and then I'll play with you guys. Come on. The 3 goblins, seeing their comrade over there, gritted their teeth in anger. Minjun over here was also ready. 2 guns in 2 hands, what the hell am I afraid of? Let's try and see how powerful an E-rank skill is. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 streams of black magical energy shot out at the speed of light, with the power of a nuclear missile, finishing off the 2 demons on either side in a single note. Kim Minjun became even more fired up. Although his main task was done, he didn't mind things like conveniently killing a few more monsters. The remaining goblin was so scared its vision blurred. With his signature demonic smile, Kim Minjun threatened, "Where are your friends, huh?" And then there is no then anymore. When Kim Minjun left the dungeon, he was more satisfied than ever. The dungeon is cleared. Now it's time to go back and play League of Legends. In a flash, it was time to return to the army. Today, there was another field trip. The whole group was marching on an empty field. Not many people were excited about this trip. Kim Minjun's expression was unchanged. He had ended his very satisfying leave by collecting a lot of magical energy, a few new skills, and camping at the internet cafe to eat ramen and play games. And when he returned, in a light-hearted mood, the entire platoon was in a state as if there was a funeral. It was all because of the 3 words, empty dungeon. His long-haired friend even hugged him and wailed, "Minjun, that's an empty dungeon. We're being forced into mobile hunter training next week." The nearby blonde and red-haired guys sat there with pale faces, their souls having left their bodies. This time, the platoon leader was still leading the way. Each squad would start from a random point, move to the assembly point in the center of the dungeon, and have to deal with monsters that charged out in the middle and unexpected situations. There, as soon as he finished speaking, the monsters came. The platoon leader ordered everyone to prepare for battle, having spotted a target on the hill ahead. Before, everyone's spirits were low, but now everyone was in serious mode. Only our main character was smiling as if he had a bountiful harvest. This was what a division-level practical training was like. From the hill, a herd of round balls with sharp jaws rolled down at godlike speed. They were called Dark Bones. The entire team was ordered to load their weapons and prepare to aim. Kim Minjun was laughing so hard, his expression contorted, because this incredibly fun training session was exactly as he had predicted. The command to fire rang out, and everyone opened fire simultaneously. These black balls looked tough. The scarred sergeant shouted to remind everyone Dark Bones have thick skin and extremely high elasticity, so they are difficult to subdue with close-range weapons. We must deal with them before they get close. The whole team was still firing with all their might. But these things rolled fast too. Because they had gotten close, they had to switch to close combat. Only 3 were left, but they were extremely ferocious. If they start latching on and sucking blood, it will be hard to eliminate them on the spot, so be careful to avoid getting bitten. The shape of a ball, But the nature of a leech, huh? But this also means the moment you're bitten is the end. So if many people are eliminated due to injury, won't the platoon's performance plummet to the bottom of society? There's no way that's happening. At this moment, a black ball was charging towards 3 soldiers, eagerly sticking out its long tongue. Kim Min-jun immediately dashed forward to block. As he ran towards it, he shouted for Master Sergeant Lee Sung-ho, and then gave it a heavenly kick, sending the little thing that had just gotten close, flying far away. Specifically, it flew straight up into the sky, a kick that made others look up in awe. If no one was here, it would have been skewered by a dark arrow and dead long ago, not flying around like that. Taking the opportunity, the other soldiers opened fire to finish it off, and so Kim Min-jun just took on the duty of kicking the ball for his teammates to shoot down. If you're a ball, you should accept being kicked. Why try to suck blood? And so the whole herd was wiped out, not a single piece left. After finishing this battle, the platoon leader let everyone rest on the spot for 10 minutes, while also checking their gear to see if anyone was injured. After the check, each squad reported in. After the platoon leader finished speaking, he turned to pat Kim Min-jun on the shoulder. The others continuously gave him a thumbs up. Kim Gwang-shik and Lee Dong-jin's eyes met. Then they quickly turned away. The blonde and red-haired guy's spirits had hit rock bottom. As soon as they got a break, both of them immediately zoned out. The red-haired guy lamented that this training was harder than the last one. Just one battle, and they had already taken several breaks. The blonde guy in a daze spoke unclearly. He had just heard a rumor that this place wasn't an empty dungeon. A boss monster had once been here. That big elephant was punched by this bearded general until it returned to the earth to make a training ground. So there's a rumor that it was captured alive and is being held at the assembly point. This dungeon is probably going to be destroyed too, and the 2 young men were also in tears. At this moment, the scarred sergeant came over, put his arms around their shoulders, and pulled the 2 troublemakers along. Break time is over. Kim Min-jun, hearing this story from a distance, felt that the Hunter Corps' Du Seokyong was quite something. The whole group set off again. The 2 troublemakers were constantly and noisily screaming for their lives. At this moment, the platoon leader again halted the group. He had seen something. Then suddenly he was extremely alarmed. The whole team also stared wide-eyed in bewilderment. Even Kim Min-jun was dazed. The person sitting in the middle of the road wearing the injured person sign was none other than Du Seokyong. But if he's injured, why is he still smiling so brightly? Meanwhile, in another land, an old man with a long white beard and hair was smoking, when a young man in a steel helmet approached. The old man didn't need the other to speak to know he had broken his sword again. Because he was used to this, and also because he had backed that woman which led to this, he didn't hold it against him. But damn it, breaking it this badly is a bit too much. And this chipped part looks familiar, huh? In another development at the central assembly point of the dungeon, the army had set up a series of tents in an area with pre-built concrete fences and barbed wire. Additionally, there was a large truck and a small truck parked there. A closed-door meeting was taking place here among the leaders. One person was scrolling on a tablet while speaking. I told you there have never been this many monsters before. This person was the commander of the 104th Division 3rd Battalion Lieutenant, Colonel Ko Jong-cheol. I mean, there shouldn't be any incidents. The fat, crew-cut-headed old man laughed so hard his eyes disappeared and said, "Mr. Division Commander, it seems you think the average combat ability of the division is declining, huh?" He was the commander of the 100th Division, 1st Battalion, Colonel John Seung-kyun. Of course, the thin, bespectacled man didn't mean that. In fact, Jong-cheol even felt that such pressure wasn't much. At this moment, Colonel Lee Junbyom of the 104th Division, 2nd Battalion, opened the door and entered. His face was as sad as if he had lost his ration book. He returned the greeting while asking if they had seen the division commander. "Well, what?" A terrifyingly loud scream rang out. The fat man casually clasped his hands behind his head, leaned back comfortably, and laughed. "Now you know what kind of person he is. No one can stop him." "No." Even so, why would he suddenly participate in training? Junbyom still couldn't believe his ears. The crew-cut-headed colonel was still gloating over others' misfortune. The bespectacled leader pushed up his glasses like Conan, but didn't solve any murders, simply recounting what the division commander said before he escaped. "There's a soldier I want to observe with my own eyes." At this moment, the division commander, playing the role of a wounded man, was sitting in the middle of the road, smiling like a ghost. He must be playing the role of a mentally traumatized person. Seeing the division commander, the whole squad was stunned. No one said a word. The most shocked person now is the battalion commander. He immediately froze. The scarred sergeant behind called out, but he didn't react at all. The director also told them that someone from the division command would participate, but he didn't say that person was the Hunter Corps' Du Seokyong, aka the division commander. The platoon leader was so scared his expression went out of control. As for the injured person, he was like a tiger. The good thing was, this man's main job was division commander, and his side job was an actor, so he was determined to play his role to the end. Du Seokyong held up his roll card and smiled. "Platoon leader, please take good care of me. Look at that face." That's why being an actor is his side job. Report, commander. I am Lieutenant Kim Chailman. Yes, sir. He was so scared by the commander's "I'm about to eat you" begging tone that he almost peed blood. Kim Min-jun had 2 young men carry a stretcher to welcome the injured soldier. Looking up at the towering old man, these 2 young men weren't sure if they could even lift the stretcher. Luckily, this old man, while acting his part, refused to lose his dignity. He wouldn't lie on the stretcher and even scolded the scarred sergeant for knowing his personality and still playing along. After threatening his subordinate, he dusted off his hands and turned to leave, declaring he would definitely not follow the training program stubbornly, using the excuse of not knowing anything to back out, finally concluding with one sentence, "You don't need to worry about me, just continue your training." This was the first time in his life Minji had encountered such a situation. Even crying wouldn't do anything. Looking at the commander's extremely meaningful hidden smile, Min-jun suddenly smiled along his smile was no less demonic. He had realized some truth, so he felt this damn training course was getting more and more interesting. Indeed, it was interesting because hilarious situations kept happening. Afterward, monsters still kept appearing everywhere. The injured person just stood in one place and observed while Kim Min-jun was still fighting enthusiastically as usual. The platoon was also provided with a lot of equipment by the division. At the same time, more recreational activities were added to the training, making it more fun for some people, but not all. Reaching this part of the road, everyone was about to start breathing through their asses. Leading the tired squad was Private First Class Jin Cheolho, 2nd Squad, 2nd Platoon, and in front of them now was a giant lizard with a twisted neck joint. Cheolho used all his strength to slash this contemptuous lizard once. Just as its face parallel to the sky was about to be slashed, he also collapsed from exhaustion. At that moment, the lizard suddenly went berserk, lunging down with its long tongue out, about to snatch the miserable soldier when a sword slash went across its throat. The one who acted was none other than Kim Min-jun. His basic swordsmanship had leveled up slightly, increasing his mastery of sword-type weapons. Unexpectedly, this training trip also helped increase his skills. Kim Min-jun acted as a support for his exhausted friend to stand up. Around them, the whole team was still putting all their effort into slashing the twisted neck lizards. Cheolho struggled to say a word of thanks to Kim Min-jun. He didn't reply. Over here, a soldier was struggling to slash the monster in front of him. A sword slash with no visible movement, only a flash of light scared him witless. Kim Min-jun rode on the monster's head and flew wherever he went. His sword swung and slashed everywhere. Even when landing, he still conveniently swung his sword back and beheaded the unlucky lizard. The injured person had observed enough of the spectacular scenes just now. For this drill training course throughout the history of the Hunter Corps, it was rated as the highest intensity training course. Lost in thought, a lizard appeared behind him. This guy was something else. He directly raised his fist, which was enough to send that unstable living creature flying into the sky, never to return. So is he still injured? This ends here. Line up in this order and start resting. Everyone keep up the good work, Kim. Cheolmin loudly commanded his platoon. He did a very good job of giving breaks and sending them off. Kim Min-jun at this moment was giving a thumbs up to his comrades. He had also successfully made an impression on Commander Du Seokyong. At the same time, in the north of the city, girls were putting all their effort into slashing black balls. These balls were really draining their energy. A final ball flew over. The blonde girl was in trouble. Missing the slash really hurts. Sun Yunseo aimed for the right moment and charged, managing to send it straight to hell in time. At this moment, the female team finally breathed a sigh of relief. The blonde happily exclaimed that Sun Yunseo was truly formidable. As soon as she finished speaking, another black ball flew like a motor towards her back. She still hadn't detected the danger and continued to speak. You alone have caught most of them. Just realizing something's wrong now, miss. You're out of ways to run. Her helmet flew into the air. The blonde was pushed and fell to the ground. A mane of blue hair floated in the air. Sun Yun-seo once again reacted in time to save her friend. But the ordeal quickly shifted to herself. This dark bone had cornered her at the edge of a cliff. Unfortunately, her foot slipped, and her whole body immediately plunged down. Meanwhile, under the red sunset, Kim Min-jun's team was relaxing refreshingly. Kim Cheolmin and Kim Min-ji were busy discussing something. The division commander came over and exclaimed, "All the members of the platoon have come this far, without anyone being seriously injured. This platoon leader is quite something, huh? I wonder if he knows." The squad leader was suddenly praised and was a bit confused. Luckily, he was quick to praise his teammates. This time, the commander seriously praised him. "You really have leadership ability, not just a mediocre one." But he couldn't be serious. For a few sentences, smiled and said, "I hope to be taken care of until the end of the training course." Du Seo-kyung looked back at the scarred sergeant. Well, here comes the next victim. Kim Min-ji was immediately asked by the division commander, "Why can't you calm down now when there's still a long way to go? Are you just going to help those kids?" Then the two of them happily joked around, not noticing the two young men behind them looking dumbfounded. The young man with the shaved head wanted to ask the young man with the fortune teller about the training course. The fortune teller refused, but the shaved head asked as usual. He pointed to a hole and asked what it was. The fortune teller replied, "That's it, a hole." At this moment, the whole squad set off. The head was still curious about the hole. The fortune teller was very concerned about his friend's studies. "You don't know about the catacombs. Did you fall asleep during dungeon training? That's a fatal line, my friend." But the fortune teller still didn't know what to say. Although they haven't revealed much about the catacombs, currently, many hypothesize that the catacombs are places that can connect from one dimension to another. So it's essentially an infinite connection from an infinite space that's pretty enlightening. But that's not all. Even in tombs, there are specific boundaries. The end point of that spatial connection. At this point, the brain-dead guy started to die. The connection point was broken at an unexpected point, and that was the catacombs. Luckily, when he got here, he understood human language. He was amazed at the fortune teller's erudition. By the way, the barber asked, "What would happen if you accidentally fell or jumped into that hole?" The fortune teller stroked his chin and smiled knowingly, spitting out the two words, "I don't know." He only knew that there was a rumor that he would be transferred to another dimension. This made the head of the cutting room immediately lose his mood. At this moment, the two people saw the army in front, standing still and bustling. What happened when Kim Cheolmin and Kim Min-jun went up at the same time? Both were shocked at the same time when they saw Sun Yun-seo lying on the ground unconscious. Although there is no scene of catching a virtual Canadian beauty like in romance movies, but falling down but still alive is already very virtual. Not long after the person who had just collapsed woke up and took a drink of water, Kim Cheolmin was communicating with someone via walkie-talkie, and the division commander was looking like he had stepped on shit. After a while, the battalion commander turned around and informed the 4th Battalion, comforting Sun Yun-seo not to worry and to rest assured. Sun Yun-seo asked him to check if his teammate was okay. They are fine, still have the energy to take care of her situation. The team even planned to pause training to search for her, but they received the notice, so they probably will continue training. Sun Yun-seo felt somewhat relieved. But the real problem was her. "Look at this leg, it's frozen stiff, what should I do?" Kim Min-ji said seriously that her leg was no longer able to continue training, and for a hunter knowing how to take care of himself was as important as combat training. Kim Cheolmin also said he had contacted the 4th Battalion, so rescuers would come to pick him up soon. "I know you're disappointed, but you can't delay your training because of that." Sun Yun-seo still wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. She could only sadly bow her head. At this time, the division commander clasped his hands and asked about the real situation of the wounded soldiers. The usually arrogant Sun Yun-seo was scared when she saw the division commander. Her face turned pale and her eyes were white. She started to wonder where I was and who this was. She thought this was just a platoon training session. Why was he here? Kim Cheolmin immediately reported the situation to Du Seo-kyung, fake wounded. Du Seo-kyung also felt sorry for this case because the training program was about to end anyway. "Hey girl, what was the situation like then?" "Private first class. Sun Yun-seo, sir." While fighting the monsters, I fell off a cliff and lost consciousness. Then when I opened my eyes, I was already here. You fell into the boundary of the dungeon, or perhaps it was a dungeon pit. Anyway, I'm very glad they found you quickly. A professional's mind usually thinks quickly about training situations, but while talking, Du Seokyong suddenly remembered something was wrong. His face froze, looking more blank than ever. Wait, your name is Private First Class Sun Yunseo, sir. Holy shit, it's Sun Taiho's daughter. Although Sun Yunseo didn't want to make it public at this point, she had to admit it. And so the injured person tag was immediately shipped to her neck. Before the bewildered eyes of many, Du Seokyong turned left and right looking for someone. The whole platoon was full of young men, but not a single one looked decent. Finally, he saw Kim Minjun taking the opportunity to train Lee Dongjin. He immediately shouted for him to come over. As soon as Kim Minjun arrived, Sun Yunseo buried her face in her hands, wishing she had a basket to hide her shame. Her face was as red as if her crush had seen her in a dazed state. How can it be such a coincidence? Very quickly, her face turned from red to black when she heard Du Seokyong's command. Sergeant Kim Minjun, you will carry her from now on. Kim Minjun thought he had misheard, but no, Du Seokyong repeated the command as firm as a nail. While he was looking at her, the old man was about to go crazy over Sun Yunseo's identity as Sun Taiho's daughter. Kim Minji really wanted to speak up for Kim Minjun for the performance points, but he couldn't anymore. Kim Minjun also understood very quickly. He accepted the mission in just a few seconds of thought, proactively lowered himself to invite Sun Yunseo onto his back, but she refused. Kim Minjun put on his most dangerous face and said, "You have another choice, which is to quit the training. In return, you'll immediately lose all your training points. What do you choose?" The good thing about this demon was that besides hitting monsters' weak spots, he also knew how to scratch the itch of achievement-obsessed people like Sun Yunseo. After a 2-second internal struggle, she finally agreed to get on his back. As soon as Kim Minjun turned his head, he gave a wicked smile. Someone was worried if he could carry the girl, but it wasn't too much of a concern since someone who could carry 4 ironstones at once was no weakling. Kim Cheolmin told him to just follow him and the deputy platoon leader. If you're tired, you must report it immediately. Kim Minjun, fired up with the prospect of more points, immediately said it was no problem, and even turned to smile at the beautiful girl, making her blush endlessly. Meanwhile, he was cheerfully dreaming of scooping up all the points, not looking tired at all. Kim Minji approached to remind Du Seokyong about the preferential treatment. The old man had no other choice either. Besides, no one forbids this, and helping the injured is also part of the training program. The rest is, you don't know, do you? Sun Taiho, that bastard, is not simple. Sitting on the warhorse, Kim Minjun Sun Yunseo could clearly see the sympathetic expressions of the other soldiers. And there was the strangeness of Du Seokyong and Kim Minji, which made her feel more and more pressure the longer she sat. So annoying that her face was about to melt with sweat. If there's any problem, tell me right away. I'll walk by myself. Actually, it would be fine to let her walk on her own now. It's okay. You're even lighter than a boulder. Originally. Sun Yunseo wanted to ease the awkwardness. But why the hell did whatever came out of this young man's mouth make it twice as awkward? Sun Yunseo was even stunned and asked back, what boulder? Of course, it's not the addictive kind of rock, but a boulder. Someone her size probably weighs around 50 kilograms. The more he talked, the more embarrassed she became. Sun Yunseo quickly shut him up to avoid further awkwardness. She said she wouldn't say anything more, but less than 3 seconds of silence later, she offered to repay him later. Kim Minjun was just waiting for this sentence. He gave a smug grin and said he was also looking forward to it. In his mind, it would be best if she repaid him with a lot of points. Even if you're lighter than a boulder or weigh around 50 kilograms, please shut up. Truly a case of fated enemies. Whenever they opened their mouths, they would bicker. But their mistake was to bicker right in front of these two masters of gossip. Du Seokyong and Kim Minji exchanged a meaningful look, then looked at the young couple with eyes even more lovey-dovey than people in love. The sky quickly darkened, but the platoon still had to march on. In the midst of such fatigue, the only wish was for the monsters not to suddenly appear. Otherwise, this place already like hell on earth would become even more terrifying. And it was thanks to some injured person they had changed the training intensity from normal to hellish, making many soldiers just scream in tears. About 2 kilometers left. Don't let your guard down. Stay focused until the very end. Pass the word, down platoon leader, Keelman said to those near the front. This was probably the best news during this entire march. Everyone smiled with satisfaction because they were finally about to arrive. Even sergeants like Lee Ik-jun or corporals like Lee Gi-tae couldn't hide their joy, but it was still too early to smile. Just a second after the smile bloomed, Gi-tae shouted an announcement, "Report, platoon leader. There are monsters in the sky." The red-haired young man's mouth was incredibly unlucky. Whatever he said, it came true. Cheolmin frowned and ordered the entire team to prepare their weapons to deal with the monsters ahead. A flock of flying monsters was approaching. This group was also pitch black, like those black balls, but at least they had eyes to see where they were going. The scary part was that this flock of blackbirds appeared too suddenly and at the perfect time. This made Cheolmin quite worried and flustered. Du Seo-kyung looked at the circling flock of birds with an indifferent expression. They had come this far with a truly injured person, but in the end, they were out of luck. The blackbirds were monsters the size of a parrot, but their teeth and claws were sharp enough to tear flesh. Of course, demon hunters weren't afraid of monsters like these, but in their current condition, they were truly formidable opponents. This flock was more persistent than a hungry leech, even if you ignored them. It was an upgraded version of a Type 1 leech, a darkbone. And besides, I can't see anything because it's too dark. That's the main reason you're standing off to the side. Right? Because it was dark, dealing with the blackbirds was 1,000,000,000 times harder. Du Seo-kyung couldn't see anything, and neither could the soldiers. Even the scarred sergeant exclaimed that this was truly a big problem. Although he couldn't help, the fake injured division commander still mocked Kim Min-ji for giving a weak response that could lead to a clear defeat for the entire army. And the darkness combined with the tired soldiers would not be an excuse for that failure. But Kim Min-ji was seeing the situation clearly. Even if they were all demon hunters, even if they were all healthy, it wasn't certain they could change the outcome. More accurately, the divided formation could be a weakness that made everyone weaker. Right now, they could only trust the platoon leader and wait for his instructions. Kim Cheolmin was also scratched. He was also panicking. But there was still someone with godlike carrying ability here. Seeing his accumulated points at risk of flying away without wings, he couldn't just let it happen. Kim Min-jun was so angry, smoke was coming out of his ears, gritting his teeth and cursing, "Damn it!" And so, Kim Min-jun, carrying Sun Yun-seo, ran off without a word. Sun Yun-seo, on his back, couldn't react to this sudden speed and could only scream. In less than half a second, Kim Min-jun charged like a wild horse to Kim Cheolmin and asked him for a chance. The platoon leader didn't understand what the hell had possessed this demon to ask for a chance while he was responsible for transporting the injured. At this moment in Min-jun's eyes, there were only 4 words: destructive element. He said everyone had reached their limit and couldn't hold on much longer, but he could handle it all. "So what's your plan?" The two began to exchange secrets. The platoon leader reacted strongly after hearing it, seeming to lack much confidence. Sun Yun-seo, on his back, also sympathized with him. Kim Cheolmin stood frozen for 5 seconds. In the end, he still chose to give Kim Min-jun this chance. If it doesn't work, you'll face the consequences. And if it does, this is the only time. What a generous platoon leader. So generous that Sun Yun-seo suspected he was being too reckless, suspecting she was on the same battle line as 2 crazy risk-takers. At this moment, the flock of black birds suddenly charged into the air in unison. Kim Cheolmin immediately gave an order to move the injured there, but was stopped by Kim Min-jun because there was no time for that. The opportunity was right at this moment. The captain gritted his teeth and made his decision. Finally, he ordered everyone to move behind Kim Min-jun while preparing their firepower. This command made even Du Seo-kyung bewildered. Are these guys planning to hunt birds with rifles? Sit still and hold on tight, Kim Min-jun said to the person on his back as he loaded his gun. I can't leave the injured behind. He intended to carry a person while hunting monsters. He wouldn't let go of a single accumulated point. Sun Yun-seo didn't know what the hell this bastard was planning, but she still closed her eyes and used all her limbs to cling tightly to Kim Min-jun. The flame of magical energy burned in Kim Min-jun's eyes. For a dark mage, hunting in the dark was as easy as a new recruit's hunting exercise. Looking at the aggressively flying flock of blackbirds, Kim Min-jun gave a smug smile and raised his preloaded gun. These guys are destined to die, especially with the dark arrow skill here to suppress them. He could hide it in a long-range gun, so there was even less fear of missing. This blackbird charged aggressively, not knowing a warhead was waiting for it. This warhead shot straight into its face, sending it to the void. Sun Yunseo's eyes widened in amazement. She didn't understand how he could hit it in these conditions, not knowing that the chance of dodging a bullet carrying dark energy was as high as winning the lottery. Moreover, dark energy was also very well hidden in this darkness, so he could just fire away to his heart's content. Watching this display of perfect marksmanship, everyone was open-mouthed and speechless. They could only silently marvel at how terrifying this guy was. Moreover, Kim Min-jun was also showing off a bit too much. Of course, he didn't know this. He just happily brought back the good news of total annihilation. The army continued on its way, with staggering legs and dazed faces. When they saw the barbed wire fence, everyone could finally smile. The corps inside was ready to welcome them. Kim Cheolmin led the way into a long round of applause. The tired soldiers dragged their last steps of the exhausting journey. No one could maintain a normal state anymore. Everyone was too tired to breathe. Even Kim Minji couldn't hold back his panting. The blonde commander announced loudly, "2nd Battalion, 2nd Company, 2nd Platoon all have passed." This news was also welcome. The whole team was happy after hearing it, and their spirits lifted. The happiest person was probably Kim Min-jun. He had successfully protected his score. Now the medical department will examine the injured who are brought forward. Kim Cheolmin joyfully said to his team members, "Everyone has worked hard. Thank you for enduring to the end without anyone being left behind." His expression also clearly showed how excited he was. The team members finally got a real rest, smiling brightly and giving him a thumbs up in response. "You worked hard." Seeing this, Sergeant Kim Minji immediately praised his team for not showing any signs of fatigue until the very end. "Now everyone will move to the temporary barracks and get some rest. Hurry up, brothers." The team had all left. Cheolmin still saw Kim Min-jun carrying a person on his back, calmly staring at the medical staff with a hostile gaze, making people wonder what he had done to be glared at like that. The platoon leader, seeing this, called out to him and also exclaimed, "You worked the hardest, always leading the way without fear of danger." Min-jun thanked the platoon leader. "Actually, I don't mind doing things like that. Losing points is what's embarrassing. Can you put me down now?" Sun Yun-seo finally dared to speak up now. The medical staff was about to turn to stone. Only then was she placed on the stretcher. Yun-seo still apologized for bothering Cheolmin's platoon, and also thanked them for their help. Kim Cheolmin was the lord of diplomacy, the king of building relationships, always maintaining his signature smile and a few perfunctory phrases. He said that everyone completing the training safely was already a happy thing, so she didn't need to worry about anything. At this moment, a savage laugh rang out. The owner of this smile was none other than Mr. Du Seokyong. "Well done." He also didn't forget to add a compliment behind it, followed by a wicked smile. Finally, the entire platoon had completed the training safely. As he spoke, he lunged forward, wanting to grab Kim Min-jun by the neck, but he dodged in time. From the moment he laughed, Min had already seen and judged, but missing once didn't mean he would let him go. Kim Min-jun saw him reaching out again and panicked. Again, it wasn't just him who was panicked, but also this crowd of onlookers. Actually, it was more like they were speechless with their commander. Watching Du Seokyong play tag with Kim Min-jun without laughing required a high level of emotional control. Just as Du Seokyong caught Min-jun, a loyal voice interrupted the atmosphere. Du Seokyong turned with a serious expression which greatly surprised Kim Min-jun. The person who arrived was a woman, Colonel Yu Jihai Company commander of the 4th Battalion, 104th Division. Just looking at Mrs. Ji-hee-do, Seokyong was already sweating bullets. This was an iron woman. Looking at the expressions of these two for the first time in his life, Kim Min-jun enjoyed watching drama. Mrs. Jihai ignored Du Seokyong and went straight to Sun Yun-seo to ask about her injuries. Yun-seo reported back that she was only injured in her left ankle. Mrs. Jihai also felt she was lucky to have fallen into a dungeon pit and only sustained that much injury, but she still didn't forget to tell the medical staff to take her for an examination right away. After that, she turned to the pale-faced old man over there and asked, "How was your observation of the training, sir?" Then she smiled charmingly and continued, "May I ask a few questions?" Smiling like that wasn't a good sign. Otherwise, the mischievous Do Seokyong wouldn't be sweating bullets and avoiding the topic. Mrs. Jihai maintained her expression and insisted on asking, "Now what happened after that?" It's better not to say. Early in the morning at the cafeteria, Kim Min-jun took a full plate of rice and meat and happily stuffed his mouth until his cheeks bulged. There was no one in the cafeteria but him. The cook here brought a steaming, overflowing tray of fried chicken and invited Kim Min-jun to eat. Of course he didn't refuse, and even shamelessly asked to eat alone. The cook smiled gently and agreed to this request because everyone was sleeping anyway, so no one would fight him for food. Kim Min-jun took the tray of fried chicken, saying, since the cook had worked hard to make it, he would also try his best to finish it. Recognizing Kim Min-jun from the 2nd Company's 2nd Platoon, the cook exclaimed that the 2nd Platoon was the strongest division. He also said he had heard the officers talking while eating, and the company commander had praised Kim Min-jun a lot for his active participation. He also heard about Min-jun single-handedly dealing with the flock of flying bats that appeared at night. He wanted to confirm this story. Do you still need confirmation, big bro? The cook continued to marvel and chatter, also saying that in this mobile training, 70% of the division had failed. Meanwhile, Kim Min-jun was trembling uncontrollably, his face flushed red, his eyes closed, and his face scrunched up. He was savoring the wonderful taste of the chicken. On the other side, the leaders had just returned from their meal, and were interested in looking out the window at the quiet scenery of the company. The person next to him said that according to instructions this morning was free time, so it wasn't strange that all the soldiers were sleeping in. But they still have to eat breakfast, right? The company commander acknowledged that everyone had worked hard in this training, which greatly impressed the division commander. Captain Kim Chi-woo, commander of the 1st Company, excitedly asked about the rumor that the division commander had come to watch the training of the 2nd Company, 2nd Platoon, and even marveled that he didn't have authority, but was still cool. As he spoke, he saw the faces of the 2 people next to him plummet. The person walking outside even looked at him with a judgmental gaze. Kim Chi-woo thought he had said something wrong. But no, it was just that they were reminiscing about the time the very cool division commander in his mouth was scolded by the 4th Battalion commander as if being splashed with water in the face, but could only grumble without saying anything. And the person was so right he couldn't argue, so he had to take it. The other leaders also raised both hands in support of Mrs. Ji-hee. Moreover, Mrs. Ji-hee was also a ridiculously scary person. Even the company commander was afraid. But on the other hand, if not for Kim Min-jun this time, the situation would probably be even worse. Kim Min-jun not only possessed overwhelming achievements, but was also praised in front of the division commander. Because of this, the company commander suddenly found the upcoming monthly meeting something to look forward to. Meanwhile, at the 104th Division headquarters, Du Seo-kyung was scrutinizing documents. While Mrs. G was leisurely sipping tea, the dungeon arrangement schedule is this much, that's enough. How is Private First Class Sun Yun-seo? Yu Ji-hye put down her teacup and said she didn't have any broken bones. Her recovery ability was also good. She could finish her treatment tomorrow and could return to her duties. Very much like her father, Du Seo-kyung lamented. As soon as he finished, the phone rang. Du Seo-kyung had just picked up the phone when he heard shouting from the other end. "You bearded spinning hat old man." Du Seo-kyung couldn't remember who was so disrespectful. "It's me, you spinning hat old man. Have you already forgotten my voice? Damn this phone number, let's have a match." The person on the other end of the line was none other than Major General Sun Tae-ho, aka Sun Yun-seo's father, commander of the 107th Division. He was sitting on Du Seo-kyung's desk, his whole body tense with veins signaling an impending storm. It seemed Mr. Sun was very angry, speaking without any respect at all. And with someone like Du Seo-kyung, how could he let someone talk down to him like that? "That Mr. Sun Tae-ho, what's the matter that you suddenly call me? And what did you call me, old spinning hat?" Du Seo-kyung loudly protested. But the fact that he had a spinning beard was true, so why question it? But that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Mr. Sun wanted a match, and was asking where would be convenient. Hearing this, Du Seo-kyung held his head and sighed, asking directly, "Hey old man, are you doing this because your daughter got injured? Aren't you a soldier too, and a general at that?" Hearing Du Seo-kyung speak, Mrs. Ji-hye was also startled. What the hell is this guy spouting? Mr. Sun didn't deny it, but because of that, he also needed someone to practice with. "Stop talking so much. Give me the location." Hearing this, Du Seo-kyung's blood also rushed to his head. He loudly scolded Sun Tae-ho for being childish. He also apologized to him for Sun Yun-seo's injury, but training was like that, nothing could be foreseen. Sun Tae-ho chuckled on the phone. "What does an FA like, full damage, full critical hit? As expected, Du Seokyong was provoked until his face turned red with anger, and he cursed. Damn it! Where is he? Hey, the phone's broken, you old coot. The division commander didn't know he had crushed the phone and was still furiously cursing. Provoked by Sun Taiho, Du Seokyong's expression immediately went blank with rage, his volume out of control. His face as red as a fighting cock as he roared, I'm not married because I don't want to be, you hear me? Seeing her foolish old man go on a rampage, Yu Ji-hee quickly approached to remind him that the Major General had already hung up. Du Seokyong was still fuming. How could he let the person who provoked him get away so easily? He turned to ask Mrs. Ji-hee if she had Sun Taiho's number, call him immediately. Mrs. Ji-hee hesitated for a moment and then said, Calm down, Commander. I think Major General Sun has a right to be angry. Du Seokyong, seeing his girlfriend siding with Sun Taiho, got even more annoyed. Du Seokyong even thought that Yu Ji-hee had informed Major General Sun about Sun Yun-seo's injury. This old man was so angry he was being irrational. Luckily, Yu Ji-hee didn't hold it against him. She gently explained that because the patient had to be evacuated to another place, the hospital naturally had to report to the guardian. Moreover, the information he heard was, his daughter was injured during training, but wasn't taken away immediately because she received special treatment to easily complete the program. That's what everyone at the scene said, so although Mrs. Ji-hee also felt they didn't need to apologize, an explanation was still necessary. Furthermore, she also knew very well that Du Seokyong wanted to show Sun Taiho the strength of the 2nd Platoon, 2nd Company, 2nd Battalion. Mrs. Ji-hee's understanding somewhat made this hot-headed old man. More than anyone, Du Seokyong was the one who had witnessed the process of the 2nd Platoon moving the injured. It seemed there was a misunderstanding here, so he decided to go and explain everything. But now that his phone was crushed, he could only use Yu Ji-hee's. Mrs. Ji-hee was also speechless. Although she didn't like it much, she still let him use it, but only on speakerphone so everyone could listen. Du Seokyong had no other choice but to compromise and agree to sit down and negotiate. The phone-connected Sun Taiho wasn't there, but still knew the two were together. Yu Ji-hee proactively spoke up first, feeding Du Seokyong his lines. Du Seokyong, getting the hint, also obediently cooperated with Mrs. Ji-hee, speaking very properly and even proactively taking the blame, albeit a bit reluctantly. The surprisingly positive attitude also surprised Mrs. Ji-hee. After clearly expressing all his feelings, Du Seokyong formally apologized to Mr. Sun. Just when he thought everything would be smooth sailing, no Major General Sun delivered a line like a bucket of cold water. What are you talking about? This time, even Mrs. Ji-hee was speechless at his utter cluelessness. Actually, Mr. Sun wasn't concerned about his daughter's injury. What he was concerned about was something else. That kid who carried my daughter, give me his name. What? Mrs. Ji-hee looked at Du Seokyong's expression and felt this time it was hopeless. How dare you let a guy who isn't even in the medical team carry my daughter? I wouldn't even dare to do that. No matter what you have to compensate me, what's that kid's name? You'd better spit it out quickly. Yu Ji-hee quickly grabbed the phone and hung up. So scared even the dial tone made her jump. But the worrying thing was still right in front of them. Division Commander. This time, Du Seokyong couldn't hear Yu Ji-hee's call for help anymore. He was frantically lost in his own thoughts. His hand gripping the sofa was tense, with veins trembling like a leaf in the wind. Get the car ready. Right now, Du Seokyong issued a super urgent command. With his face as red as a gak fruit from anger and his disgustingly natural smile, Du Seokyong demanded Company Commander Ji-hee cancel all her plans and immediately go with him to Daejeon. Hearing that Yu Ji-hee also turned purple with anger, these two old fools are both stubborn and hot-headed. In another development, Kim Min-jun was walking and singing, as happy as he had ever been. As he passed the water cooler, he didn't notice the black ghost he raised standing there posing like a supermodel, even though it was only a small thing. But very quickly Min-jun turned back. The black ghost happily waved its short arm to greet him, but he wasn't happy. He quickly looked around, then grabbed its head, stuffed it into his pocket, and took off. He quickly looked around, then grabbed its head, stuffed it into his pocket, and took off. I told you to be careful not to get noticed, yet you're still standing there waving around. Being scolded, the little black ghost also made a series of gestures to defend itself. Although you're very cute, I find you annoying, unbearably annoying. What Kim Min-jun said made the little one sad. It even started crying. Kim Min-jun reluctantly took out some demonic energy for it to eat, and the little black ghost was immediately happier than ever. I knew it. This one is only fast at that. What news did you gather? Spill it quickly. The black ghost held out its index finger, and Kim Min-jun also extended his. Immediately he saw a desolate scene that looked like it had been attacked by monsters, and it was a surprise attack. The location was Hwachin. Hwachin again. By the way, have you been there yet? What did you see? The black ghost, having done its job, immediately puffed up its chest proudly. Disguise is already a D-rank skill. It has been upgraded, so how could it not be more useful? Kim Min-jun knew exactly that this one was begging for food, so if it asks, he'll give it. What excuse will I use to sneak out this time? Even when he got back to the dormitory, he still hadn't figured out what excuse to use. Saying it was a holiday now would be too much, and it would also waste his fixed vacation days just for an unexpected situation. If only I could suddenly be rewarded with a day off, that would be great. Just as he opened the door to his room, he saw his colleagues cheering with joy. While Kim Min-jun was still bewildered, Kim Cheol-min spoke up. Congratulations, Mr. Kim Min-jun, you have been selected as the best soldier of the division in this combat training program. In addition, the officers also said you will get a reward this time. I really don't know if the reward in the army is a discount coupon or what, that I can take it whenever I want. Anyway, thanks to you, the entire platoon has been rewarded with a relaxing vacation. Is there really a story of wishes coming true in this world? Can I use the reward tomorrow? Seeing how rushed this guy was, the squad leader asked what was wrong. Kim Min-jun smiled brightly and said nothing was wrong. He just wanted to use the reward tomorrow. Well, he answered so casually, but because he was so outstanding, the squad leader still agreed to consider this request. And so, on a clear day with blue skies and white clouds, Kim Min-jun set foot in Hwachin. But what the hell is this? A female team doing cleanup duty. So it's all over. Why are there so many hunters here? Damn it, you rude black ghost, spit out your father's magic power right now. Hunter Kim Min-jun. Who the hell is calling me while I'm pissed off? It was none other than his fated rival, Sun Yunseo. Not long before Sun Eunseo's all-female squad was sent here for cleanup duty because their poor performance in the last mobility training infuriated Captain Du. That's why you should stop grumbling, pink-haired girl, and save your energy to work faster. However, this cleanup job was truly so tiring that the pink-haired girl couldn't help but complain. Why on earth did a bunch of monsters pour out of the gate right after the training ended? The black-haired girl comforted her, saying she should feel lucky they weren't the assault team. Even so, it couldn't stop this girl from getting annoyed. The black-haired girl looked over and saw the recently recovered Sun Yunseo diligently washing the street. She immediately asked if she had fully recovered and if she was overexerting herself. Sun Yunseo confirmed she was fine, and the black-haired girl marveled at her good recovery ability. But just in case she still told Yunseo to take it easy, Sun Yunseo was very happy to be cared for by her colleague like that. Just then, Kim Min-jun arrived and caused a commotion. The girls couldn't stop chattering about which company the newcomer belonged to. Seeing this, Sun Yunseo emotionally called out his name. Hearing her, Kim Min-jun not only wasn't moved, but also made a face as if he'd seen a ghost. He was also very shocked and wondered why she was here. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, Sun Yunseo approached and asked what he was doing here when the support mission was only for their company. Kim Min-jun reluctantly said he was on leave. His reluctant tone of reply annoyed Sun Yunseo, and she pressed him. "You're not lying, are you? Who wears a uniform and comes to a scene while on leave? Could it be desertion? You're talking a bit too much." Miss Sun Kim Min-jun didn't want to argue. He directly pulled out a confirmation document, making Sun Yunseo quickly correct herself. Damn it. Why can't she ever trust others like this? But even after providing proof, Kim Min-jun wasn't off the hook. He was interrogated as to why he would come here while on leave. Doesn't he know this is a restricted area? Damn it. Why is this woman so annoying? He couldn't just say he came to consume demonic energy. Kim Min-jun could only make up a story that he had something to do here. And hearing it was an emergency, he thought he could help. Just then, a dungeon gate suddenly appeared and opened in a startling way. Seeing this, Kim Min-jun beamed. I thought this vacation was a total waste. But just because Kim Min-jun was happy didn't mean others would be. The pink-haired girl was so scared upon seeing the gate that she was about to cry. It wasn't because she was afraid of the monsters, but because she was afraid of having to clean up the aftermath. The black-haired girl reacted well quickly, calling out to inform the platoon leader and reminding everyone to run to the platoon leader's area. Everyone quickly complied. Son Eun-seo also moved with the team, but remembered to pull Kim Min-jun along. Of course he wouldn't go. Let's see what a reasonable excuse would be. Monsters might rush out, so I'll stay behind to buy some time. Son Eun-seo disagreed with this plan, loudly urging him to get away, but Kim Min-jun was very determined. The assault team has already left this scene. If monsters rush out, everyone will be in danger. He reasoned this way, and assured her that if he encountered danger he couldn't handle, he would be the one to flee faster than anyone, so she didn't need to worry. If you have any equipment, just toss it over for me to borrow. Son Eun-seo found his reasoning plausible, but still didn't fully agree. Kim Min-jun reminded her about her not fully healed leg, urging her to get away so he could conveniently block them. Son Eun-seo reluctantly bit her lip, pulled out a short dagger and gave it to Kim Min-jun, telling him to run immediately if he encountered danger. Then she turned and left, not forgetting to promise to return with the squad members as quickly as possible. No need to be so enthusiastic, lady. Now that everyone's gone, Kim Min-jun can finally show his true skills, right? Among the monsters, there are some that don't want to leave their habitat. So if a dungeon gate had those types, an incident like today's in Hwacheon wouldn't have happened. But just as life has its ups and downs, monsters have their docile ones and their hyperactive ones, especially those with the habit of moving in herds. Therefore, the first candidate to appear is this red pig. It didn't come alone, but led a whole herd, arriving with aggressive, provocative squeals. Oh, for fuck's sake, I haven't even said anything and you're already crowing. Well, then you're just fated to die early. But these guys have consumed a lot of demonic energy, so their vitality is really overflowing. Both sides began to charge at each other with rocket speed. Kim Min-jun seriously shot a few dark arrows, but they had no effect on the pigs. It wasn't enough to pierce the thick, chopping board-like hide of these creatures. Melee players don't like thick skin too much. The three leading pigs even intended to charge at the same time to ram Kim Min-jun and break his spine, but it wasn't that easy. Before they could get close, he leaped high into the sky, then swooped down, slashing continuously. Their thick hides began to show scratches. Besides their skin, these guys don't have any Gucci or Hermes. But I have to admit, their skin is really thick. But if I peel this skin off what's inside... The decay skill was brought into play. The open wounds plus this attack made the pigs spew blood from their mouths. Even so, the lead pig still showed a stubborn spirit, not shedding a tear until seeing the coffin. I thought this one was going to ram me, but no, they rammed each other. That saves me the trouble of finishing them one by one. I just have to stand aside and absorb their demonic energy. After I've absorbed all the demonic energy, I'll give this knife a chance to be sharpened a bit. Thanks to the pigs, his demonic energy stat increased by another 3.